marketers ruin everything. If we're going to get clients results, we need to be deeper into their business. Going into the level of what are your expenses, what's your profit margin, cost of goods, what are your shipping, what's your customer service look like. You can't just do one service and get them results.
Manu Verma is the founder of Nuver Digital, the growth engine behind brands driving over $100 million in client revenue. Known for his full funnel, data-led approach, Manu goes beyond performance marketing and execution across ads, landing pages, content, and conversion.
Everyone's already asking like, hey, how are you using AI? Like, how are you going to put this into your workflow? When you're running ads, there's so many pieces to that pie. Like, you've got to have really strong content. Page that you're sending people to needs to be really strong. Actually setting up and managing the campaigns is probably like 20% of the work. I'm very involved. Like, I'm in the weeds day to day. I'm talking to clients. I'm understanding their business because I have that experience of helping a lot of these brands go from 0 to 100 to million per month and scaling from there.
We've all seen e-commerce brands and they're all over our TikTok pages as well as everything else on social media. But I'm getting behind the scenes with a guy who helps run some of Australia's best e-commerce brands. He's their marketing guru, and we're going to deep dive into exactly how he does it, what's coming next, especially when you've got things like TikTok Shop coming around. But stay tuned because this podcast episode is a cracker. Manu, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on board. I guess a good place to usually start these conversations is just a little bit more about yourself, some context as to what you do day to day. I know we've chatted off camera for a little bit, but so that everyone's listening and know what you do, tell us what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of ways I think about myself, but one of them more recently has been just a fractional CMO for e-commerce brands. So that's usually brands that are running on Shopify. They might have a retail presence. Probably a lot of our clients have retail presence. And we'll come into the business and basically look at their overall online marketing strategy. So what does the website look like? What sort of content are you producing? What sort of advertising are you running? And we'll come in and kind of look through all of that strategy and then also implement and execute that for them. And we have clients that we've been working with for 2 or 3 years now where we've been getting videos created, getting graphics, getting statics, managing all of their advertising campaigns on Meta, Google, TikTok, working on their website. Just building partnerships with e-commerce brands all around Australia.
Nice. And is that different to how traditional digital marketing agencies work? Because I imagine you take more of a process of end to end, whereas they might just be like, hey, I'll do Meta ads for you. Is that the big difference there?
Yeah, definitely. I think I actually worked at a traditional agency before I started this one, so I kind of got to see that rhythm of it and understand what I was doing. And even while I was there, I kind of wanted to take a bigger, have more autonomy basically with the brands that we're working with, because I realized you can't just do one service and get them results. There's too many things relying on it. Probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago when you launch something, you set up an ad, the algorithm is fresh, no one's really running ads, you kind of set it up, it just knows who to target and things just go well. Whereas I think now in the current modern age, like when you're running ads, there's so many pieces to that pie. Like you've got to have really strong content. The page that you're sending people to needs to be really strong. Actually setting up and managing the campaigns is probably like, 20% of the work. So I realized that if we're going to get clients results, we need to be deeper into their business, and going into the level of not just what the customer sees, but even like what are your expenses, what's your profit margin, what are your cost of goods, what are your shipping, what's your customer service look like every piece of that pie to build like really strong customer journeys for these brands. And these are all like, solid brands, like they have retail presence. Customers have an expectation from them to get a certain experience when they're online. But we're kind of helping brands transition into that online space and make sure that they're presenting themselves really well and not just, running ads, getting a ROAS, that kind of thing. It's like, how does the customer actually perceive your brand? It goes quite deep. It makes it hard for me to kind of scale the business in that way, which is something we can get into, but it means that I'm very involved. Like I'm in the weeds day to day. I'm talking to clients. I'm understanding their business, because I have that experience of helping a lot of these brands go from 0 to 100 to million per month and scaling from there.
And so you're saying you were primarily with people who run e-commerce businesses?
Yeah. So a lot of our clients have a retail presence. So they might be in Woolworth and Chemist Warehouse and Priceline, a lot of brands in the health, beauty, supplement space. They might have a retail presence where they have like their own fashion store, that kind of thing. And online obviously is something where they have to exist online now. It's kind of like an expectation. People are going to search for you, they're going to look for you, and you're going to have that loyal customer base that keeps buying online from you, especially when they've made that first purchase in store. So we're kind of looking after that full online experience. Some of our brands are 100% e-commerce, But we find that having a retail presence now is almost essential for a brand to grow long term. Because when you look at it in the industry, it's a bit of a misconception that everything's moving online, I feel like. And I'm kind of honest about where things are actually at. I mean, retail sales still account for 70 to 80% of total sales. So obviously there was a time in COVID when maybe that shifted and it went to 50-50, 40-60 even. And that's where, you had your Shopify brands skyrocket. Everyone became really familiar with online shopping. But after COVID, funnily enough, what actually happened was it kind of went back to where it was. So we saw this like rocket ship fly up and we saw like, wow, everyone's buying online. Everyone went excited. All the private equity firms started investing in, e-commerce brands, giving them all these investments, say, hey, spend more on ads, spend more on marketing, or, hire all these employees. But what we actually saw after COVID, one was it kind of went back to where it was before. So the growth stabilized back to that point. People started going back in stores. They still crave that in-store experience. A lot of those private equity brands or brands that IPO'd during that time lost a lot of market cap and didn't end up becoming profitable. So now it's a completely different game where investors are looking for profitability first. They're not looking for a trend of growth. If you've been investing, 50% of your revenue into marketing, even though you're growing, that's not the right trend. It's about your profitability. But yeah, in saying that, so that retail presence is really important for growth. And so we're kind of supporting that online experience, making sure the brand presents themselves in the best way, and also acquiring that percentage of customers that do prefer that online experience. Especially, we might be seeing a shift in the Gen Z market. When they're coming in, they're obviously born into the age of the internet, not like us, where our Nokia flip phones, where, you had primary school and you had prepaid. Like these guys, they're born into the world where they're seeing like the internet from day one. And so they might be more familiar with that online experience. So one is future-proofing, and we're kind of helping brands do that by having the best online experience. And two is, just supporting that retail presence for these legacy brands as well who, they're not up to scratch. And so that they don't, someone doesn't come in and disrupt their business model with an online presence.
What sort of pushback do you get from like some of the legacy brands when you start saying, hey, you need to do this in terms of your content or online? What sort of things that they say?
Yeah, I mean, legacy brands are hard to deal with because they have such a big retail wholesale presence. And when those retailers and wholesalers see them going online and really pushing for that space, they kind of get upset sometimes. So they're like, hey, like you're discounting your products, you're selling them online, you're undercutting us. And they're quite attached to that retail wholesale business. And that's where these disruptors come in. They're like, we're online only, we're going to undercut your price. Plus, we're going to show innovation and we're going to create content to demonstrate that. So, I mean, when you look at the way that, brands work, the top brands that are earning the most money are investing the most in research and development. If you look at Johnson & Johnson or you look at Procter & Gamble, like these guys are investing millions into research and development. If they created content around that, showed their manufacturing, showed their research and development, they could probably come in and really kill a lot of these small brands that are disrupting the space. But the reason they don't is they just choose not to produce that content or show that process, probably just because they're kind of stuck in their ways at the moment. And so the disruptor brands come in, they're like, look, we've done all this research. Look at our manufacturing facility. Look at our warehouse. And it's like big brands have that, but they're just not doing it. So they're kind of stuck in that way. Yeah.
It's wild when you say it that way because you see it on TikTok all the time where you've got smaller brands, they sort of build in public, where they're showing the back, behind the scenes of like, oh, this was the order that we needed to ship and we're working till 12 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
And you compare that to like the bigger guys and they want to gatekeep everything. They don't want to show anything.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine if someone went into their business and was like, hey, you should create content about everything you haven't shown.
Yeah.
You'd probably get a lot of these retailers or people like ourselves go, oh, I feel so much more connected because it's a real person or real business that's out there. Yeah. And they'd be able to dominate the content because they'd be able to do it at scale.
Yeah, exactly. And they have the investment to put into it, but they're still pushing marketing budgets into other things, into TV ads, into, retail promotions, local promotions, whereas all they really have to do is hire a couple of employees, come in, create content, dominate their TikTok pages. And we've seen some like legacy brands do it in a really cool ways. There's been like up and coming brands, like something like the Stanley Cup, which like this brand's been around for like years and years and years, but suddenly everyone's got one. The Gen Z market's got one because they've come in and they've just been like, you know what? Look, we've presented it in a different way. It's a fun product, it's this and that, and remarketed and they've invested in that content production. So I feel like we're going to see that shift.
How does Stanley Cup become the go-to thing? Because I swear I've seen them for years, and then all of a sudden they're everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I think like the brand, sometimes you're so stuck in looking at your product in a certain way that you don't think about like what are the other potential uses for it. With the Stanley Cup, it was originally designed as like for tradies, like this cup will never break. And then I think they had that viral video where someone's car literally exploded and the only thing that survived was the Stanley Cup. So when that happens, that viral moment happens, they see a surge in sales. And then luckily they had someone in that company that was like, hang on, we're onto something here. Like there is a new market for our product. We need to get onto this and we need to double down on it. And that was a struggling business, which someone luckily turned around. So I think it's like capitalizing on these viral moments that happen. But I think brands can probably create them if they wanted to, really. Like they have the budget to create viral moments. I mean, that's where you see some cool new brands coming up. Like the US has a lot of these brands. Australia, we're a little bit behind, and I love looking at what the US is doing and bringing it to the Australian market, and that's been helpful for me to differentiate the business. But you've got brands like True Classic, which is like just a T-shirt. It's a plain tee. With the way it's advertised, the way it's marketed, it's creating viral moments, using funny ads, engaging with people. You've got soap brands like Dr. Squatch that are coming in and they're partnering with Sydney Sweeney. They're like, this is what people want to see. This is what's trending. These are the people that need to be behind the band. But then you've got brands like Dove, that's a legacy brand where it's like, who are they partnering with? They're kind of relying on that previous foundation that they've built with their, Ogilvy campaigns. But now it's like, how do we modernize that? How do we bring in new faces that are going to present our brand? So I think we're going to see this shift and we're going to see this battle between the new brands and the legacy brands. We'll see who wins.
It's so interesting, like the shift, from what you're saying with the legacy brands. They still do the same sort of stuff, and there's so much money involved as well.
Yeah.
Like the TV ads aren't cheap, the billboards aren't cheap, and then they're going out and getting in a creative agency that's not cheap, and they're shooting, big budgets, and they could get probably 10x the amount of volume if they use that money to get an organic team, build out their organic side of the business when it comes to content. And they would hit the market that they actually want to hit. But it's just wild to try and get someone in that organization to go, oh, maybe there's another way to do it.
Yeah. And I feel like the skill set is hard as well. Like who's going to do this? Who's going to come in and look at it and build up our online presence? And who's going to plan these online campaigns? Whereas you've got these senior roles that are like, oh yeah, we can run TV. We'll put this much money behind it. Whereas I feel like we aren't like at that point, but I feel like with the Gen Z shift that's happening and the smart marketers that are coming out, people that are born with TikTok and understand this space, they're going to come in and probably take really good roles in these companies. And hopefully they'll be like help making that shift and transformation happen. But yeah, the investments that go into these things are crazy. And now with AI coming in, we're going to see even more disruption from these smaller brands, these newer brands where they'll be able to produce content rapidly at scale. We've seen legacy brands do it as well. Like we had Coca-Cola do a AI-based ad, probably too early because there was pushback on that. But it's happening. So AI is going to create this whole shift where there's much less barrier to entry to creating that content. And over the last week or two, actually, there was a huge uproar in the ad community because ChatGPT released their image editing feature. So before it was like, it can generate an image. Now you give it an image, it can edit that image. So you give it like 3 images. Here's my product. Here's an ad that I really like. Here's a person doing something. Combine it all into one. And it creates your product with the person doing what you wanted to do with the example of the ad that you sent them in minutes, right? So
it's wild because we had some of the marketing team play around with it as well.
Yeah.
And it's just wild how quickly things are shifting in that space. And I'm glad that you brought up AI because it was one of my points to bring up is what do you think AI does to this entire industry? Because you're in the marketing space. There's so much talk about AI replacing jobs. Yeah. What are your thoughts around AI replacing the graphic designer or the marketing coordinator? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's happening and it's happening really fast. So it's hard to say. I think logically when you're moving at a certain pace and you're constantly seeing improvement, the kind of end thing is like it's going to replace that job. I think we're still a little bit far from it. And I don't like to see it as replaced. I see it as like supporting. So sure, a graphic designer, it takes them 2 days to produce 5 different graphics. Now they can produce 500 in 2 days, right? So it's like speed to market. So there's going to be a new type of graphic designer that's going to strategize, ideate, create concepts with ChatGPT, and then they're going to be able to produce at scale. I see that role evolving. But then that also creates a whole shift in the actual industry itself because now it's like every brand is producing 500 statics per week. So people are seeing all these random ads from all these brands And how does that shift the consumer mindset? Now, because we see this all the time. Marketers ruin everything.
That's the saying,
way
isn't
things
it?
work, right? Yeah. So we had email. It was like 99% open rates. And people just, wow, send email. And now it's like 10%, 15% open rates. You feel lucky. So I feel like we're going to see something similar happen with AI where it's like your feed, your sponsored feed is just spammed with static ads from all these different brands, and you're just kind of going to mute that from your head and you're not going to click on them. You might not even engage with them. That's what I expect to happen. And then that gives rise and brings back video content until we see AI come and
replace that
as well, right? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shifts the entire landscape.
It probably brings two things to my mind is number one, how important brand is. Because if you've got people behind those brands, personal brands, founder-led brands and things like that, that would go through the roof because now they're not just seeing static images of just random celebrities, whatever it is, that there's AI generated versus like just raw, authentic people. And the other thing as well is that when it comes to, you mentioned not replacing, but helping, I like to think of it as replace, instead of replacing, it's enhance. Yep. And you're right, like the graphic designer I have will have a special set of skills. And although she or he may not be able to go through and compete with that, but if they can now utilize AI as part of their workflow, they're still going to have better eyes to that and determine which one will work better than I will.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you. I think the industry is going to shift, but it's like who adapts the fastest? And we saw it as well because I remember doing my first unpaid internship and it was when I was learning SEO. And this is now, we're talking 2011, right? And I was like, what the hell is SEO? And I didn't want to know about it because it sounded boring. And there was some guys from like Germany and they were like, no, you got to learn about this. It's going to be huge in Australia. And it ended up being huge. And it feels like we're almost at that starting point again, but with AI and AI agencies and SaaS products and what that could look like. Does that excite you or are you scared by what AI brings to the table?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was actually going to think about that. Now I have been thinking about that. A little bit, there's a natural part of me that doesn't push back. It's like, God, I wish this didn't exist because it would just make life easier for all of us that already have a business, that are happy with the way things are working. But then there's the other part of me that's like, we have to constantly innovate. And that's kind of something that I've had in my business as I've been going through it. So, when things started, it was just we offer one key service, and that is, we do this really well. And I master that service. But then I realized when I looked at the brands that were going from 5, 6, 7, 8 figures, like, what are these guys doing? And over time, like slowly but steadily, I brought on new services. So I spent a whole year mastering a service, and that's when I introduced it as like a service we can do. So, it started with content production. Like, sure, we can run ads and we do that well, but ads are reliant on content and brands are struggling to produce that. So we do that. I spent a year doing that. And then I was like, now I have a process. I can get UGC content created. I've got a database of creators. We can edit those videos. We can produce it at scale. We've got a graphic designer. We've got a process to brief them and then create that content. The next thing was, okay, you've got an ad, you've got content, you're sending someone to a page, but they're not buying, they're not converting because your page sucks. So we're like, all right, what's the next step? Well, we need to create landing pages. We need to optimize brands' websites. And that was a huge struggle for them as well because Shopify built a whole coding language. They built Liquid, which is not HTML, it's not CSS. And so there were specific developers required for that. And it was hard to find those developers. So I kind of went through, built a team of developers that were dedicated to Shopify. And there was a lot of issues. Like that took a whole year because I'm finding developers that started off with HTML, started off with CSS. So when they code in Shopify, everything's done with a hack. They're doing it in a different language from the mindset. But then when you find a developer that has started with Liquid and that's their first language they've learned, they know how to do it properly. It's the code is clean. There's no bugs. There's no errors. There's no hacks. So that took a whole process. And I feel like the next thing that's kind of the focus for me this year is like AI. What do we need to do with AI? And how do I master this service so that I can offer it at scale? And that's kind of the part of me that's like, okay, I have to keep innovating. I have to use this. And I mean, for brands, it's positive. So it's a good innovation. But yeah, there's obviously that part that's like, I was fine and we were doing fine. But now it's like, everyone's already asking like, hey, how are you using AI? Like, how are you going to put this into your workflow? And we're like, yep, we're working on it. But I want to properly master it and have it as a serious service. Obviously we will test it out with a few clients. We'll work on it. We'll build a team around it as well. And then we'll go ahead and we'll execute it. So the process that's really good right now is audio. Like AI audio, it's pretty hard to differentiate if you're just watching a 15, 20-second video. If it's a whole podcast, you might be able to tell. But with like a short ad, you can't really differentiate AI audio from real audio. So we've already implemented that. So previously, we'd have to give a product to someone and be like, hey, can you talk about this? Give them a script, get them to say it. And if we want to test a different angle or they say a word wrong, we have to go back to them. Can you say that again? Can you fix that? Now it's like we can just make people say whatever we want. And we've had things like where a brand will launch something and their website is like .com, and then it's .com.au, .com.us, and we use AI.
I would add that.
We can change that voice, and it's like saved all that time. We don't have to work with the creator. We don't have to pay them. It's basically free. You can edit it, and you can't tell at all. Testing different angles, different hooks, different messages. We can do that with voiceover, and we can put that text over the video. We take the footage, so it's already streamlined the whole content production process. Where it would take us like a week to produce different hooks, and because we have to get the voiceovers, now it's like within a day we can test 10 different angles and hooks. So voice is there. Image editing now is here, so that's all coming in. I think the capability at the moment is like it produces really good concepts, but if there's like text in your product, it kind of messes that up. If you're trying to tell it how to position text in a certain way, how to play with the font styles, it kind of messes that up. So what we're doing right now is we generate the image and the concept. The designer will fix up anything that needs to be done, and they will add the text themselves manually. But yeah, I'm sure like within, who knows, a month will probably be like perfect image editing capabilities as well.
Yeah, usually you think about businesses and you're like, oh, they're going to innovate, they're going to change. Oh, in another couple of years we'll get there. Exactly. It's like in probably 2 weeks we'll be probably there. Yeah. But what I haven't found is a software that can do it where you can clone myself and then make YouTube videos yet. Yes. So I'm waiting for that day because I think that'll be interesting. Yeah, and I won't have to shoot as much.
It's close. We've got HeyGen AI, where you can have that UGC. You can record a video of yourself, and it gets pretty close. But I feel like the brain can detect it. Like the human brain is like looking at it, and it's like something's
off.
The audio isn't synced, or the mouth is moving weirdly, and that I think for us naturally as an instinct is off-putting.
Yep.
So it actually turns people off. It actually like, I don't want to click this. I don't want to engage.
Feels like a scam.
Yeah, I don't want to watch this. It's like, it's just not right. So yeah, but it's getting there and it's close. I can't imagine the capabilities though for you in the property space, like looking at hundreds of data points, different suburbs, all of this, and just feeding that into AI and just being like, give me that information.
It's almost like you've been back there in the team because that's what's exactly happening right now. There's a lot there because for us as well, it's like, how do you innovate? How do you stay ahead of the curve? And there's so much more competition now. And you better believe that there's going to be a few out there that are going to say, hey, this is our opportunity to now claim some of that market share. Yep. So for us, we're going heavy into that space. And it's just, how do we enhance every part of that process? And it's going to increase productivity. Obviously, it comes at a cost initially because you're going, let's try this, let's test this. Oh, there's a new product, let's go try that. Yep. And there's a lot of that trial and error. But I feel like when you get it right, it's going to be absolutely game-changing, and not just from a profit point of view, but I think there's so much more we can do off the back of it. It's really exciting.
Especially for a business you're basically in the analytics business, right? Like analyze every single location, every suburb, every street, and if you can go to that level now, it's like the time saving to do that,
exactly,
and the accuracy of the data, the insights that you could draw. Really.
Yeah, I mean, you eliminate human error, and that's massive, especially when you're looking at data specifically. But I think it'll be in the same way that I'm talking about, like a graphic designer may not get replaced, they get enhanced. It's the same thing with how we would do in terms of research, because you're like, well, I don't need a researcher to do it anymore. But what it is, it's you can get the data, but you still need someone to interpret that. And then you get the interpretation, then you go, okay, well, how accurate is this? And the only way to do that is talk to agents on the ground floor.
Yes.
And that's going to be the live data that you get because everything online is pretty delayed. Then once that happens, then you go, okay, I now need to have a human describe this to the rest of the team that are actually going to now utilize it in conversations and then have that conversation with clients. So I think it's going to help the process, but again, like who knows what this looks like in a couple of months.
I even love to see voice agents coming in. So we've been using voice agents now because, again, you can't differentiate audio. So you could have a customer that abandons their cart and you can call them and you can be like, hey, it's me calling from this brand. And I know I saw you abandon your cart. What can we do? And what was there a reason for that? And sometimes people will say like, oh, like the delivery cost was too high. No worries. I'll adjust that for you. AI goes in, APIs into Shopify, adjust the delivery fee, sends them a new invoice. Hey, I've just sent it to your email. Are you good to pay? Processes the order and does that. Whereas previously we had clients that were doing this and they would have to have like a call center in the Philippines. You've got 5 people. They're calling customers manually. You can only call one customer at a time. Now, if 10 people abandon cart, we can call them all at the same time. Right?
That is mental.
So when you were talking about calling agents on the ground, imagine that. Like it's just, hey, I've got 10 real estate numbers. I'm going to call all of them. I'm going to ask them all the questions I need to. And then you can listen to that recording or it just summarizes it for you, tells you the impact. So,
yeah, it's going to be wild. I want to go a little deeper into your journey. So walk me through, before you started this, what were you doing?
Yeah, well, I graduated with a degree in information systems, and I had a internship at UNSW, so I was able to work at different corporate positions. I worked at PwC, I worked at Deloitte, I worked at Westpac, 6-month placements. And just during that time while I was there, I was like, this is cool, this is fun. But at the same time, my mum actually started a wellness center. So she opened her own business, and it was just an at-home business. And I had a friend that was like, hey, you can like help her. You can make the website. You can do all of this. And so my friend was doing all of this, and he's like, let me show you how to make a website. So I did that. I went on WordPress. I made the website for her. I did the SEO. I did the Google Maps optimization. And then I got into how do I actually get customers? And so I went into this rabbit hole on YouTube of how to run ads, how to do that. So I went down, I said, hey, call one of your customers. I took a video of her. I took some photos of her, and then I put that up as ads. And overnight, we had all these people that were coming in. They were like, yes, I want to know about this service. What are you guys doing?
Wow.
And she went from having a business, starting it, to having like a fully booked calendar within a couple of weeks. And so I was like, wow, that was like impact. Like I'd done all these placements and positions, and it was good. Like I enjoy the corporate space. It's got its own kind of vibe to it. You come into the office, you're wearing a suit, you're like, there's a lot of human interaction. You're talking to people like it's fun. You're building your soft skills. At PwC, for example, I talked to someone that's like super senior level, and I felt awesome. But then at the same time, this was different because it kind of felt the impact. The impact was different. It was like, wow, like I've helped a local business and I've like turned that around for them. And that just felt more impactful. There's also a bit of instant gratification, which was awesome. It was like, wow, leads are coming in. But I went really deep into that. Like leads came in, I built all these automations that would follow up automatically. They'd text them, they'd email them. And yeah, I just loved what was happening. So yeah, when it came time to apply for grad positions, I had corporate offers, but I decided to apply for marketing agencies. And so yeah, I got one offer, luckily at a local one in Surrey Hills. And yeah, I took that role. And I became kind of like a generalist. So I was talking to people that would come in. I'd talk to them about their website optimization, their SEO, their Google, their Facebook. Luckily we had the opportunity to work with a few clients. And that was quite early in the Shopify days. Like it hadn't IPO'd, it was just released, it was almost free to use for like 6 months. They were just building out the platform. But pretty early on, I recognized the potential for that. And I realized that these clients that I work with, one, it's like awesome, it's super fun, it's enjoyable, but also I've built processes that can almost give them results every single time. Like I set up ads here, I do ads here, we optimize this website, we target these people, and they're generating revenue. That was super exciting for me. And so it came to a point where I was like, I want to just focus on this type of business, just e-commerce brands. And that's when I, decided to start my own business, which was helping e-commerce brands.
And how long have you been doing it for now?
So it's been about 8 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, 5 years full time with my own business.
Yep.
It's just the journey's just kind of taken it from there, where I've I had a few clients that I was able to get started with. They had retail businesses. I actually built their Shopify stores from scratch. I saw them go from 0 to 150K per month in like 2 or 3 months, supporting that retail business. And then I was able to take those case studies to the market and just talk to people and say, hey, do you want to work with me? And it's kind of built on from there.
And how big is the team now?
We've got about 15 people.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's myself and then one more team member locally, and then we've got a remote team that's working around the world. So wherever I find the talent, that's where they are.
And is it difficult to find talent and hiring remotely? Because I know we've gone through it as well. There's plenty of other businesses that go, oh, well, instead of hiring someone here, could get 4 people for the same price. What are the difficulties when you're hiring remote?
Yeah, it's tough. You really have to filter the talent, and you have to kind of test them for a few weeks. So we have times where we'll test someone for a month or 2 months and say, look, it's not working. The skill level isn't there. And that happens very often. But everyone that we've hired now is full-time. So they're not subcontracted. We don't use a recruitment agency. We kind of put out job offers ourselves, go through that interview process and actually find them. The talent is surprisingly limited. Like you'd think that, wow, like, great, I just want someone that can run ads really well. Surely there's heaps of this talent, but there's definitely a barrier sometimes when you're hiring remotely. where, I don't know if it's a language barrier or if it's just the strategic thinking sometimes isn't there. So to find that right talent, you have to kind of go through a couple of people before you find ones that are really good. But we've had team members now that have been with us for like 3-4 years. So the team's quite set. We've got all of our processes that have been set. And there's actually a lot of benefits, even for clients, because oftentimes we'll be, say this Black Friday sale, and it's the craziest time for us. Like we've got clients and I'm like, hey guys, 6 weeks in advance, let's prepare. Give me your assets, tell me your offer, we'll set everything up. Never happens. It's more like 6 hours in advance. It's like, hey, here's the assets, sales going live tomorrow, you're sending it to me at 4 p.m. Like I'm not going to be able to get someone to work at 4 p.m. locally, but the team offshore, they can do that. And you actually get a benefit because they're working overnight. And
pretty much getting like 24 hours coverage.
Exactly. By the morning, I come in, I review everything, make sure it's set up perfectly, and it goes live. So we actually have those benefits. But, there's pros and cons with everything. But yeah, I mean, I've built a team that I can trust now to do the work, and I'm still deep in the weeds. So I don't feel like I'm at that point where I could just step away and it kind of runs its own thing. I like to be deep in the weeds, and that's kind of how I've built the business. It limits growth, but I've never kind of been one to be like, wow, I want a team of 50 people. I feel like I would feel like it's too much stress.
Yeah.
At least at this time for me, where I'm also very like controlling in a way where I'm like, I need this to be perfect. I'm very obsessive. Like I'm like, if we're going to do this, we have to do it right. If this video isn't 100% there, it's not going live. I feel like handing the control to someone else, I don't know. Like a lot of it is subjective, which makes it hard because I'm like, this is how this website needs to change, but someone else might not think that.
Yeah.
So it's hard to like hire for that type of role. But yeah, that's kind of the things that I'm kind of working with. And it was pretty recent, actually. I made the first local hire, but that actually has been super helpful. Something super simple. I feel like as a business owner, you kind of think about it like 10 times. You're like, do I need someone? Do I need someone? I think I can manage this. I should be okay. But then you do it, and then you kind of slowly start training them and handing things over to them. And yeah, obviously it works out really well. So that's worked well for us for now.
And how do you deal with, because you mentioned before we jumped on, was you work from home.
Yeah.
So I imagine that can get lonely sometimes.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? I know you can stay connected with your team online and whatnot, and with your clients, I suppose. But what do you do to not be lonely?
Well, like I work from home. My partner works from home. So yeah, we just try to get as much interaction and engagement as we can. There is a lot of client communication happening. So, I mean, I'm talking to the team every day. So, we're on Slack, we're constantly messaging back and forth, we're doing video calls. Like when I hire a new team member, they will shadow me for like a couple of weeks and look at exactly how I do things, document that process, record all of that and manage that. So yeah, it's just a matter of staying engaged and just having that constant communication. And I like to keep the culture really open. It's like, if you need help with something, you have to let us know. And yeah, if you're feeling a certain way, you have to let us know. If you need a day off, you have to like communicate that. So I'm just trying to build the best culture I can while keeping it remote. And trying to empower people now, like trying to help them to be able to make the decision before they try to say, what do we need to do? It's like, what do you think we need to do? So I'm trying to figure out the best ways, leadership-wise, how that works as well. So yeah, it's just a learning and balancing game, to be honest. But I kind of like the ability to work from home, where it's like I'm full focused, I'm locked in. You're kind of in that mode and you get a lot more done. I feel like a lot faster.
No distractions.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, there's something that's going to be huge. I'm not sure. I don't think it's in Australia yet, but TikTok shopping live.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for it to come out. We've been lucky enough to have some clients that have received access to TikTok Shop. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's basically TikTok Shop taking over the entire shopping experience. So now it's like there's no more ads. There's no more website. You're just on TikTok. You see content, you see product, you buy, you pay, and TikTok fulfills it for you as well. So
that is wild.
Yeah, they're going head to head with Amazon, with Shopify, all the platforms, and basically to become, kind of like what WeChat is in China. Where it's like this is one platform for everything. TikTok's kind of doing that. So yeah, in the US, it's crazy. Not only crazy from a brand perspective, but also the way that they've done the full integrations with creators as well. So now it's like they know if someone's clicked a product from your page, from your video, and they will automatically give the creator a commission. They'll take their cut, and then the brand gets their cut.
Okay.
So it's a fully streamlined operation from the point of they have an interface for you to contact creators, for you to communicate with them. So you say, hey, I'm going to send you all this product. And we've got brands that are sending out 1,000 products per week. right? And then you've got 200 people that are posting for you. And they're all incentivized to post because they're getting a commission if they drive sales. So they'll drive sales organically. You have the option to boost that as an ad as well. So if a content does really well organically, you put money behind it, and then you go through that whole cycle again. And it's pretty crazy. And also the buying experience, like Gen Z consumers are fully on board. They don't have to go on the website. Yeah, exactly. They see the ad, they see the product in the app, they click buy now, and it's done, and it comes to them the next day.
I guess it's that whole idea of reduce the amount of steps, reduce the friction, and from the point that someone views it to actually purchasing and putting in their cart, if you can reduce that, you win the game. So TikTok's very smart at doing that because they've got all the attention at the moment as well.
Exactly. But even just them building that system, it's good for TikTok, but also if a brand does that, like not everyone's going to buy it on TikTok. Some people will go and do a Google search, they'll go on Amazon, they'll go directly to your website, however they want. So just having a process to amplify your content and distribute it at scale, I think even outside of the ability to purchase and drive revenue directly from that platform, just the amplification that comes from it is awesome. If as a brand you're like, well, I don't know if I want to pay TikTok this or get that commission, it's like, well, you're getting amplification at scale. You can't really get that in any other way right now. There's no easy way to contact 1,000 creators, get them to post for you, and have a platform where they're incentivized to do that really easily.
Yeah, it's that whole idea of distribution, right? So if you have a product and you're selling it on Amazon, probably have to be more competitive on pricing, and there's certain things you have to give away versus just doing it through your website. But you're not even in the conversation if you're not on Amazon or eBay. It's the same thing for like the book that we've got. It's, you can be on Amazon and then you get the most eyes on you, but you may not make the biggest return in terms of profit versus your own website. So you got to figure out what that, what's important in terms of distribution. I've got a question for you, and I bet a lot of people sitting out there, business owners, all have this thought. Is why go with an agency versus doing it internally?
Look, I think there's going to be pros and cons to both. And for certain businesses, one path might be better than the other path. For the types of businesses that we're working with, one of the core things that we see for businesses that scale and do well online is they're very lean. They don't have big wages. They don't have, all these storage fees that they have to pay for. They don't have warehouse fees and costs like that because they're investing in their advertising and they're investing in marketing. And to be able to invest in marketing, it's kind of a efficient market now. So there's no more arbitrage. You can't actually go in and, my cost per acquisition is so low. Like there is a baseline cost per click, baseline cost per acquisition, and the brands that are going to scale are the ones that can basically have the highest cost per acquisition. So if I can spend $50 to acquire a customer and I'm profitable, you have to spend $20 and you're profitable, I win because I can pay the platform more. So you need to keep the business lean. And when we're looking at an agency, I don't even like to call us an agency. We're an in-house team for you, really. So when you look at our team, it's like, this is what you're getting. You're getting a senior strategist / performance marketing manager, which would be myself. You're getting a video editor. You're getting graphic designers. You're getting copywriters. You're getting web developers. That's like 5 or 6 roles already. You're getting email marketing, right? If you had to hire for those 5 or 6 roles, and not just hire anyone, you need to hire like senior people that know what they're doing, someone that's leading that process. You're looking at, 300-400K in salary, in wages, and that's 300-400K you could be putting in marketing. Whereas if you can find a team that does that for you at a similar level, then, obviously that's going to be a lot more beneficial. And you've already got a barrier to entry. You can't spend 300-400K on payroll if you're not making anything.
Yeah, that's
Or if you're making, a certain amount. So for that type of business, I think it makes sense to have a partner that you trust that's going to achieve those results. But, if you've got investment, or if you're doing, 10 million per month, then it might make sense to have that in-house team, because then you've got the ability to produce things faster. You've got the ability to do it at a higher level. But with certain brands, there's actually no benefit to doing things faster, because you can only test a certain amount of ads per week at a certain budget anyway. That's like, well, okay, we could produce 100 ads and you could do that in-house and you could pay this team to do it, but you're going to take 4 weeks to test them anyway. So why not just do 10 ads per week? And that's a level that we can easily produce at and do it for the brand at an efficient price, make it affordable, but also at a level where it would be hard for you to find that skill set. Especially in Australia, it's not easy to find someone with a skill set where they have experience scaling brands to the level that we've done now. And if you do, then you're looking at some pretty big fees and retainers to get someone at that level.
Not only that, but I think the other part with an agency, it's you get to learn from others, because you'll have multiple brands you take care of. It's the same thing that we have. It's like, why won't you do it yourself? You get to a buyer's agency and you're like, we do strategy with so many different people. There's stuff they're doing that you should be doing.
Yeah.
And there's no way you'll know about that unless you were like part of that community at least. So I can see where the benefit is as well. But
yeah, exactly. It's having a process. Like it's guiding the customer, guiding the client towards what they need. Like a lot of time, they're not going to know exactly what they need. They might try to hire for it, but they're like, what's the right role to hire for? You don't even know. Whereas we can come in and say, look, this is the strategy that we're going to take you through. And we build out that entire strategy. So we'll say, look, this is a product that you might want to focus on. This is the offer that you want to have. This is the demographics we're going to get. This is the messaging we're going to have. This is the content we're going to produce. This is the page we're going to send people to. Like that whole strategic process that we would guide people on. I think, when we have that experience, because we've done it for these brands. So
I love it. What's next for you? I know you're looking at AI, but what does the next 6 to 12 months look like for you?
Who knows? Honestly, for me, my motto right now is just take it one day at a time, to be honest, because we don't know really what's going to happen. Like how is AI going to create that shift? I'd love to kind of partner with more brands at an even deeper level, looking at maybe equity partnerships. Because I think I'm kind of happy with the business the way that it is. It's a lifestyle business for me now. Like it's something that I do, something that I enjoy, not something that I'm looking to overload or grow through the moon. But yeah, I'd love to have that deeper connection with founders that are like very dedicated to the business, that have a really solid product, something that's innovative, something different, but they need that marketing support. And I've already kind of built 1 or 2 relationships in that, which has worked really well for both sides. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of explore that space as well.
Nice. I'm very excited to follow the journey. And if people want to follow your journey, where do they go? Where do they find you?
Yeah, just look me up. Manu Verma. You can Google search me. I should be #1 SEO result. And you can look at all my social profiles and follow me there.
Nice. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
No worries. Thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
There we go. Another episode in the books. But in order for us to get bigger guests, and I'm trying to get my way to getting Stephen Bartlett here, it's a work in progress, but he told me, and unofficially told me, that we don't have enough subscribers on the channel. So if you want him on here, we're going to need you to subscribe, and it's going to go a long way if you do share this episode with someone else as well. So let's do it together.